Good evening, folks. Tonight we are blessed by the presence of our Lord coming through to ask questions for us once more. We are asking questions tonight that will be part of what we will be putting into our third volume, which will be channeling the teachings of Jesus. So we have some very, very interesting questions for him tonight, which we're going to ask. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Connie and let her ask the questions, and I will try to speak his words for you.
Okay, Lord, do you have a message to start out with this evening?
Yes, I would like to thank you all for listening, and I would like many of you to know how much I am proud of what you have been doing to try to spread my words. We have been bringing you these messages now for a couple years, and it is very important that we try to reach as many folks as possible with the words that I am speaking. As you all know, we are going through very difficult times where the free will of humans is actually endangering the future evolution of your country and humans in general. Please know that without having love for me in your hearts, your evolution is in danger. Know evil when you see it. Try to encourage a strong core family. Try to bring younger people to know my words and to know my love. So with that, I'm going to answer the questions that you have prepared for me tonight.
Okay, Lord, when you walked the earth, by what name were you called?
I was called actually many different names when I walked the earth. The English translation that I want everyone to know is Jesus. That is the name that will live forever, and that is the name that I want people to remember. Some called me Yahweh, some referred to me as in the manner of a church leader, but the name that I want you to remember forever is Jesus.
Okay. Were the people that you converted mostly Jews?
Yes. In the beginning, the people around me were mostly members of the Jewish faith. So I tried to convert them. Many would come to me that were pagan and were not Jewish, and we would try to speak to them and tell them that the true faith laid with worshiping the single God and not the many pagan gods that the Romans were worshiping at the time.
Yeah. Since evangelicals preach that every word in the gospel is true, does that make them false prophets?
That is a very difficult question for me to answer for you. They believe that every word of the gospel is correct. When they do this, they think that they are following my true wishes. What they do not realize is how much the words of the gospels have been changed through the years to strengthen the positions of men in the church. In my heart, I do not consider them false prophets, but they do preach of things and speak of things that are incorrect and were not my words.
Yeah. Historically, who do you think has done the most damage to the Christian church?
There have been many that have done damage to the Christian church. There have been those that have essentially begun religions in which people love the church more than they show the love for me in their hearts. I would say that the people that have damaged the church most are the ones that have changed the wording of the Gospels to include fear. I never taught fear. Man introduced the concept of fear so that they could control the masses. I would say it was not just a single person, but all of those that cause individuals to fear me have done the most damage.
Okay. When atheists speak against you, do you hear every word?
We hear every word that is spoken. I know that is hard for you to believe, but the universal energy of God hears everything. We know who is speaking against the love of God and who is not. But yes, we do know what is taking place.
Okay. So when an atheist pass, are they allowed to see their deceased family members?
Often, when those that have spoke against me enter my kingdom, they are not allowed to see their family members as a punishment for the way they have lived their lives. Quite often, they will be demoted to a lower level than what they had when they reincarnated. There may be times that if what they have done has not influenced a lot of people, that we may allow them, after some period of time when they realize what they have done, to meet their family members.
Okay. When they pass, do you give instructions to their guides?
Their guides already know what will take place. They have been watching them throughout their physical lives. And the guides know my words, and they know my preachings, and they know what is to take place when that soul returns home. There may be special times where an individual has sinned in a manner that has earned my special attention, such as an individual like Hitler. But most of the times, the guides know how to handle the situation.
Do you consider the Pope a false prophet?
The Pope is speaking things that are counter to my teachings. There are times that he understands what he is doing, and in those instances, I would consider him a false prophet. Keep in mind, the Catholic Church has access to many Gospels that show the truth of what I really taught. So there are many times that he does know when he is speaking against my teachings. When he has knowledge that he is not speaking my words, he is acting as a false prophet.
Yeah. Was Joseph Smith a false prophet?
Joseph Smith was never directly contacted by me, and his words were basically not my words. He founded a religion that was not based on the foundation of my teachings.
What is your opinion of agnostics?
I do not have as difficult an opinion of agnostics. I understand that sometimes it is very difficult to show faith that I truly exist. Many individuals do not have the abilities that you have, that you can speak to me, feel my energies, and know what is in my heart. Agnostics are not treated as harshly when they enter heaven as those who speak against me. Sometimes an agnostic can be led to believe in me, and when that happens, we are very happy. But generally, an agnostic, when he returns, will not advance in the realms, but will probably stay where they are, unless they have done many, many evil things.
What would you tell those that doubt the presence of extraterrestrials?
I would tell those that they need to open their ears and open their minds. Much is going on around individuals now. The people from other planets that I've had help you through the millennium are becoming more and more noticed by humans as your technology increases. You are getting very close to a disclosure, and hopefully that will take place peacefully, and that people will understand when they stop and think about what is taking place the powers that I truly have.
Will any of the extraterrestrials that make first contact be members of your soul family?
There is a distinct possibility that some of those that make first contact will be members of my soul family. But keep in mind that I have sent back many others that are advanced souls that will also aid in delivering my messages.
Will you tell us which type of extraterrestrial has done the most to advance human evolution?
I would say that the Palladians have probably done as much. Arcturians have helped, just as Tulans have helped. Many members of my soul family have been Tulans in the past. You will find at some time in the future that many different types have been following my bidding and have tried to help the evolution of humans.
Now, will you give us some examples of seventh realm souls that have failed and been sent to the lowest level?
Probably the greatest example of that is Hitler. He was sent back to try to save the German Republic. We have had many other instances of gifted souls that have sent back and have not done what they were sent back to do. Their free will and greed that took over, and unfortunately, some have failed. Judas failed because of his greed. That's another example. Thankfully, most that we have sent back have not succumbed to ego and greed and have fulfilled the roles that we sent them back to fulfill.
What will be the benefits of alien disclosure for humans?
Once aliens understand the true extent of my powers, they will be able to draw on the intelligence and learning of the extraterrestrials. Keep in mind that the main message that the individuals from other planets have learned is to get along with one another. Hopefully, when they understand this, humans will begin to get along as those on other planets have learned to get along.
That would be nice. When you walked the earth, was there any such thing as abortion?
No. There was no such thing as abortion that we understood now. Keep in mind that the medical science was very primitive when I walked the earth. Many children were lost in childbirth, but very few were intentionally killed. Today, abortion is a huge sin that is a blot on humanity. In my day, it did not exist certainly as it does today.
When did you see abortion begin to become a problem?
Abortion started to become a problem probably 100 years ago. There were times that the women were going to have children that didn't want them, and they would try to take natural herbs that would kill them. It was not until your medical science advanced that it has become truly a problem, and abortions have become so simple a procedure. It has been the advance of medical knowledge that has made abortions become a problem.
Yeah. Okay, you've told us that a life plan is destroyed when somebody has an abortion. Would you explain the significance of a life plan being destroyed?
A life plan, before a soul reincarnates, it works with its guides to create a plan of its life. They go through the individual's book of life, and they determine what that individual needs to do in order to advance in the realms. When that soul is aborted, that life plan is destroyed. When they come back, we have to try to rebuild that life plan because those parents are no longer available, and the circumstances that that child would have been born into have changed. So an abortion is not only the taking of an innocent life, it is also aborting a plan that we have worked very hard to put together for that soul.
When a person who performs abortions passes, do they have to face the aborted souls?
There will be a time that they have to make up to the souls for the fact that they have aborted a life plan for them. Individuals that are creating abortions are creating unforgivable sins. They will pay when they arrive over in my heaven. They will be sent to lower levels where they will have to contemplate what they have done. And when they realize what they have done and how they have hurt those souls, they will be allowed to create life plans in which their karma will make up to the souls that they have killed.
What would you tell the politicians that are pushing unrestricted abortion?
I would tell them that they are working against one of my greatest commandments, which is to cherish life. They are facilitating individuals to take the lives of the unborn. They will pay the price just the same as those that are taking the lives, because they are the facilitators. They should be aware that what they are doing will have real consequences when they return to my heaven.
Is it possible to support abortion and still call yourself a Christian?
No. If you support an abortion, you are not supporting my teachings. Those that support my teachings are Christians. So it is obvious that you should not call yourself a Christian if you are in favor of taking the lives of those in the womb.
Okay. Getting back to the extraterrestrials, will you tell us how that disclosure is going to take place?
It is a gradual process that is already taking place. Your armed forces are now acknowledging that they have seen vehicles that cannot be explained. There will be a time in the future where individuals will admit to having close contact with aliens currently present on your planet. It will be a slow process, but within a very, very short period of time, individuals on Earth will be aware that they are certainly not alone in my galaxy.
Yeah. Has there been an agreement between the extraterrestrials and humans?
Absolutely. There has been alien contact with your leaders for hundreds of years. Keep in mind that visitors from other worlds have been visiting your planet for millions and millions of years. We have been helping them. We have been helping humans, and there will be a time that you will be able to have open cooperation in the very near future.
Okay. What advice do you have for humans when that disclosure comes?
First of all, understand that the power of God is allowing all of the different creatures in my galaxy to make their presence known to humans. Humans have nothing to fear. If the individuals from other planets had meant to harm you, you would be harmed, because they have great and vast technologies that you have never imagined. Open your minds when it becomes apparent that you are not the only individuals living in my galaxy.
Okay, now on to Satan and evil. Will you tell us who in our government you consider the most evil?
I consider the most evil those that are trying to undermine your government. I created your government by putting ideas in the minds of your founding fathers. Your founding fathers, in most instances, were souls from my soul family that I sent back to accomplish a country that could thrive under my teachings. Those that are trying to undermine your country today are your greatest enemies.
Would you name some individuals that were in our government that we thought were good, that were actually evil?
Well, one example that I would give you is your past president, Lyndon Johnson. He was responsible for killing your President Kennedy. There have been others through the years that have exhibited evil. For instance, another individual named Johnson was responsible for having Abraham Lincoln killed. He was doing a great deed in saving and emancipating slavery, and he was about to attempt to rebuild your country after your great Civil War. So there have been many high-ranking people that have appeared to be decent and had the good of the country in their hearts, but were actually quite evil.
Are there any Satanists in our government?
Yes, you have Satanists in your government. You have many that you would not believe are truly individuals that would worship Satan. But yes, you do have some in your government.
Okay. There were ancient cultures, such as the Mayans, that practiced human sacrifice to their gods. How were they viewed when they returned to heaven?
The Mayans and many other primitive cultures conducted sacrifices in their attempt to worship their gods. While that was very brutal and many lives were taken, those sacrifices were generally done in a vain attempt to gain favor of their god. Those cultures were not aware that I had walked the earth and had taught things that are now revered by Christians. They were not punished for what they did, because in their hearts they thought they were doing the appropriate action.
Is there anything that we can do to prevent the mass shootings that are taking place by the deranged individuals these days?
Many individuals today are suffering from mental illness. For an individual to take the life of the innocent such as that, they have got an illness of the mind. Your government needs to recognize that it is that mental illness that needs to be addressed. Another factor that is causing that type of mental illness is the breakdown of the family unit. Until individuals understand that parents are needed to raise the children, there will be many more individuals that pursue evil and do not really have an understanding of my words. Hopefully, the words that we are giving you will spread and individuals will understand that it's really very simple to pursue my teachings and show love for one another. Until that love is shown, it will be very hard for you to control the violence in your communities.
In your opinion, what is the worst thing taking place in our government these days?
There are two things that I find the most troublesome. The one is the pursuance of abortion and taking the lives of innocents. The second in those are those that are trying to destroy the principles that I gave to your founding fathers. For instance, there's no place in your country for socialism. Socialism has destroyed every country that has been involved with it. Those that are teaching socialism are not teaching my words.
Okay, with all the alterations to your teachings, would you prefer that people practice a religion other than Christianity?
No. Christianity, even though it has been distorted, is the closest to my teachings. other religions that follow my basic principles are acceptable, and individuals following those religions will prosper in my heavens. It is those that do not follow a concept of love for one another that are on the wrong path and will not do well when they return home.
What is your opinion of the Amish religion?
The Amish are wonderful individuals. They are the most forgiving. They are attempting to follow what they believe are my commandments. It is not necessary for individuals to live such a simple life to gain my favor. But the Amish are perhaps one of the most honest one of the most honest religions in trying to find my favor.
Okay. Barry just recently had an evangelistic Christian tell him that every other religion in the world but his is going to hell. How would you respond to that?
Well, first he has to understand that there is no hell. But second of all, he has to open his mind and understand that it is not just the members of a single religion that will find peace in my heaven. Members of all religions that live a life of love, understanding, and are good to one another will find peace when they return to heaven. For them to preach such things, they are truly the false prophets, because they are trying to indoctrinate individuals into a religion that may or may not be able to find peace when they return home.
Do you ever participate personally in judging a soul?
Yes, whenever a soul has done terrible evil, I become involved with his guides to make sure that he is sent to the lower level where he can contemplate what he has done for as long as necessary. In most instances, as I said before, I do not become involved. I do become involved when members of my soul family return home. If they have attempted to follow what they have been sent back to do, I welcome them and congratulate them on lives well lived.
Is it possible for a soul to deceive you in order to get out of the lower level?
No. My understanding is total. They may try, and many do, but until they truly have found the love for me in their hearts, they will remain where I have put them.
Can a soul choose to remain earthbound to avoid being judged?
A soul can remain earthbound for the time being, but there is always a time that they have to agree to return home. There are many souls that fear their judgment, and there are many souls that do not understand the wonders that they will receive when they return, when they totally return. But it is possible for a soul to remain earthbound for a period of time.
Is there ever a time that earthbound souls are forced to advance?
There is a time that I have my angels intervene to have them to try to convince them that it is time to return to their home. We will try to move them along, but there's essentially no time over here, so there is no rush. If the longer they choose to remain earthbound, the longer it will be until they can return and attempt to live a life that will allow them to advance.
Would you explain for us the channel of the unknowing dead?
That can be very difficult to understand. There are those individuals that have not realized that they have passed. There will be a time that once again I have my angels attempt to tell them what has taken place and for them to understand that they need to move on. But it is true that there is what we refer to as a channel of souls that have not realized that they have passed.
Yes, we met some of them. Okay, you hear psychics tell souls to go to the light. Is that how it really works?
If you believe there is a light, there can be a light. But that does not exist for all souls when they return home. It essentially does no good to try to advise souls to go to the light as such. I have my angels intervene and attempt to show them and help them to advance when the time has come for them.
Do you ever disagree with the opinion of a soul's guide?
There are times that the guides for a soul can be incorrect. Quite often they think that they are doing what is right. For instance, you saw an example of St. Martin attempting to get involved and to guide in a direction that is contrary to what I want. In those instances, I become involved and tell that soul that what they are doing is not, or tell that guide that they are doing what is not correct.
Is it possible for a soul to have done something so evil that they will never be allowed to reincarnate?
I try not to ever use the word never. Keep in mind that in my world, millions of years actually mean very little. Your universe has been around for 13 billion years. So, should they wish to remain in the lower level for 1 billion years, that is quite possible for them. But I try not to use the word never.
Do gods in other galaxies have heavens?
Yes, all gods have heavens, but all gods have different rules regarding their heavens. Many of the rules are totally incomprehensible for humans.
Many of our universities have become places of indoctrination for socialism. How can we counter their influencing our young?
The best way to counter their influence is to speak my true teachings. I have had you, for the last several years, learn of my true teachings. I've had you write of those teachings, and I have had you speak of those teachings. There will be a time that more will listen to what you have written and to the words that you are speaking. The only way that you can offset the influences of those that have determined that a way of life other than capitalism is the way to the future is to convince them of the reality of what goes on around them and what the reality is of my true teachings.
What do you believe is the future of organized religions?
I believe that the concept of organized religions will diminish over time. As individuals become more aware of what my true teachings are, they will find that very few of the organized religions actually adhere to all of my words that I spoke when I walked the earth. You are seeing a time that individuals are drawing away from the organized religions because as individuals become more educated, they tend to see what they conceive as flaws in those religions. I am speaking very simple words of love. It is a religion that all can follow.
Okay. What can the organized religions do to grow their membership in these times?
They can become more flexible in their teachings. For instance, when a church tells you that every word of my Gospels is correct, they are not speaking the truth. They should take time to learn the history of the Gospels, the history of the Gospels, what has taken place through time and how they have been manipulated. They need to understand the simplicity of my teachings. Simple teachings will appeal to the multitudes. The complexity of what is being taught by some of the organized religions has driven people from their churches. If they return to a simple method of teaching such as I did, people will return to the churches and will show love towards others and will have love shown towards them.
So do you believe the future of having individuals love God is through organized religions?
It can be. There's obviously a place for organized religions. It helps build the character of children. It teaches them the concept of right and wrong, and it brings them into contact with others that should share my love. It is also possible that individuals can follow my teachings and not be members of organized religion. So as your civilization advances, it is quite possible that many will make the choice not to follow the road of an organized religion, but to follow my teachings on their own.
What can be done to discourage the breaking up of family units? That's a major problem these days.
Your government has to do things to maintain the family unit. They have to provide education to the poor. They have to let members of poor communities that have intellectual abilities to advance. They have to make people understand that without two parents, a child will have much difficulty in following the leadership of a parent and in knowing what is right and wrong. There are many things that your government can do to help. Many of the problems are coming from the breakdown of the family unit. Individuals have to understand that when they commit to marriage, that they are also committing to attempting to raise their children to follow my words. It is very important that parents stick together and provide a firm foundation for the young.
What would you say to those who promote socialism?
I would tell them to stop. Socialism has destroyed many wonderful countries. I have watched Venezuela go from one of the richest countries in the southern hemisphere to one of the poorest. No one can provide an example of where socialism has worked. I showed you what I wanted when I created your country. Your founding fathers knew my beliefs and my desires, and they followed them in your Constitution and in the ways of running your country. It is very simple to know what is right and what is wrong in how a country should be run and how a country should follow my laws.
And what would you say to those that promote communism?
Communism is even worse than socialism. All you have to do is look at current China and what they are doing to their people. North Korea is a disaster. It's the people are suffering so in that country. Communism is the worst example of what anyone should want their country to achieve.
Yes. Thank you, Lord. Do you have a final message for our listeners?
I want to thank all of you for listening. My teachings are very simple. Please understand that if you have the love for me in your heart, you will show love for others, and the others will show love to you. It is not necessary for you to harbor hatred in your hearts. Attempt to not show any hatred towards anyone. Hatred will destroy you. Hatred will ruin your life. Hatred will lead you to addiction. It will lead you to doing many things that will ruin your lives. It is very difficult for you to show examples where love has led to leading you to a life of sadness. Know that I am with you. Know that I hear your words, and know that I hear your every prayer. Know that I am here to bless you tonight. Know that you are my children. Know that I hear every word that you speak to me. Try to follow my simple teachings. If you follow no other tenet, just remember that love is the most important thing for all. With these words, I'm going to leave you tonight. I thank you for listening, and I will return to you in the future with more messages. In the meantime, please attempt to learn my teachings and my history as much as possible. We have brought you these messages that you can listen to. I have had Barry and Connie write books concerning my teachings. Try to learn, and from the words that you learn, you will find happiness. With these words, I will say, God bless and good night.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you so much. That was an incredible session. We will be back with more questions in the future for him, and you will have an opportunity to hear more of his teachings. So with these words, I would like to say good night and God bless.
Good night, all. God bless you.